And as Josh would say, we're live. Welcome back to the Miles Ahead podcast. Josh is here, and we have a special guest, Frank Grun, former Air Force. And both of you two may have crossed paths on your vacation to Afghanistan. I don't know. What years were you both there?
Go ahead, Josh.
I was there March of 2005 to March of 2006.
Yeah, we missed each other. I was there in October of 01. And then my last time there was, actually maybe April of 05 was the end of my last tour.
Yeah, two.
I had many. That was my last. Yeah.
That's right. The Spec Ops world's a little different.
Yeah, from 9/11 for those first 3 years, blur, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole idea of going on scheduled rotations kind of kicked in.
Gotcha.
I missed it. So I missed all that. It was just like, okay, they're burned out. Now you guys go. Okay. Right. Now we're burned out. Someone come relieve us. Right.
So the cadence was burnout.
Yeah, that's I would say that after 24 years to dissect it and all that, that's what it appeared to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was based too on the helicopter air crews, and most of my time, all of my time, in fact, was on the helo crews.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were getting burned out. Bless them. There's only so many helicopters. There's only so many crew pilots, the gunners, the engineers, and all that, right? And you would rotate with them, right? If they're going to leave, then the guys that were with them leave, right? But that's only when you can get backfilled. So when those guys started burning out, when we all started burning out, either we felt the burnout or we knew that they were coming in a week or two, and then we started to feel it, right? And so when they showed up, it was awesome because we knew that we would go home, but we didn't know for how long. And then next thing you know, a month later, they're like, you guys going back in 2 weeks. I'm like, wow, okay. So they burned out that quickly or whatever, right? Something like that. So,
yeah, the beginning of the whole thing that everyone's trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. It just seems like they worked it out maybe about 10 years in. Maybe.
I was never there for like there's rumors like there was an Outback Steakhouse, right? Like coffee shop. Yeah. I wasn't there for any of that. Like we couldn't walk on anything that wasn't corrugated metal in Bagram, right? We couldn't. There was everything. There was the only potable water was in bottles, right? Like there were water buffaloes. Those were from people overnight pouring bottled water into them so that people can fill their canteens with them, right? There was no infrastructure. We were either so hot or so cold or so sick or something in between in those early days. That's how burnout was happening, and it's oddly enough in 2000, early 02, late 02, early 03 is when that's wild. We left Afghanistan and went to Iraq, right?
Oh, you did?
To Jordan to support Iraq. So this was spent Christmas in Jordan. And then the Iraq war officially kicked off like sometime in March, if I remember correctly, in 02, right? Sorry, 03. And we had tents, man, like big chow halls, showers, and gyms, and all those sort of things. And we were like, wow, we left Afghanistan and it was still bare bones. And we get to Jordan, getting ready to invade Iraq, and we had infrastructure, and that was awesome, right? Like we can sleep. And not worry about incoming. We can sleep and not worry about freezing and floods, and the air conditioner worked, right? Those sort of things. So, So
you got a taste of war, like maybe World War II times a little bit.
Yeah. Afghanistan, I mean, we called it the Wild West, right? If there were rules, I didn't know what they were. They were just orders and just go into it.
Just go. Yeah, that's wild. I remember, I should tell the audience, the first time I met you was through my brother Alex, who had a brief stint in the Air Force before the Coast Guard. And you were putting on a tactical training course. And I walk in and you're giving your buddy who had a hangover an IV. And I was like, oh, this is going to be cool.
Yeah. Man, just that it's kind of cool because I'm looking at a box right there that I got in the mail on Saturday.
Mm,
One of my buddies, a helicopter gunner, great dude, Tony, started a coffee company, right? Like, so we're either starting coffee companies, tactical training companies, t-shirt companies,
brilliant.
right? Things, something like that. And so he started a coffee company. So now that's going to be my coffee, right? Because I know him personally. It's like, does it really matter? Coffee, to me, coffee is coffee. It's not a big deal, right? Support him. Just like you guys supported me, right? Like I
Well, we
met
got to,
Alex
we
through
have,
good.
I was just going to say, we'll have to link the coffee company in the show notes. So make sure you
Yeah,
tell
no,
us
for
what
sure.
that is. Yeah.
Iron Sight. I'll go get the hat, right? Iron Sight coffee, right?
Iron Sight.
Send
Great.
me a sticker. I'll throw it on this laptop as soon as I'm done. But
Cool.
yeah. So oddly enough, like this was just it was total side hustles, right? Because I didn't even know you. I didn't know your brother from anyone, right? Um,
Just happen to
and
be in the same service.
well, I was going to. I was just looking for a venue to do the very, very specific training, right?
Mhm.
And then there's the Jiu-Jitsu gym. Did you ever go to Next Level Jiu-Jitsu?
I never trained there.
Yeah.
No. Did you meet
It's
Alex there?
yeah, and it was real
Okay.
cool because they have all this iron work stuff so they can hang Muay Thai bags and all those sort of things,
Cool.
right? I was
Mm.
like, man, I've been to shoot houses, training houses where they have that and hang tarps, right? And you create your rooms or
Mhm.
like portable door systems that you just with hooks over them. So you can like kick in doors and blow them up if you need to or whatever. I
Mhm.
was like, this is exactly what I want to do because I was teaching a home defense, like if you were to defend your home.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you're covered, right? Doors
Yeah.
open differently, all those sort of things.
Yeah. Let it breathe. All that stuff.
Yeah. So you remember,
Yeah.
right? So
Totally remember.
the time the owner of the gym was a Washington County sheriff, eventual black belt jiu-jitsu, like coach of UFC fighters, and was a very accomplished amateur fighter himself. And I just asked him, like, can I rent your space? He was like, that sounds badass. Hell yeah, right? And so a young lady who went to the gym was Tessa. Her dad was Brian Buckner. He came to the class. He went to church with Alex, told Alex, you'll dig it, right? So by the time we were doing the second or third classes, Alex had came. And by the time we were doing the next one, then we had the venue in Hillsboro, right?
The big one.
There's this cool story behind that building too, right? My Binding, right? That used to be the Soloflex building, and that was built on drug cartel money. There was a laundering.
no shit.
Soloflex was a money laundering operation, right?
Wow.
Because if you look at Soloflex, you're like, that's stupid. Why was that so successful? Right? Total fun. But we had that nice building, right? And when that guy went to jail, nice. My Binding bought it. They didn't need that nice space, but we used it and we had it to our disposal. So that's how that worked out.
It was a great space.
Yeah.
It was wide open.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, right? Because all the things that like doors opening in different direction, hallways and bathrooms and all those sort of things, right? It gave just the total experience.
Totally.
And my buddy Scott, who's a professional bodybuilder, but he also has this iron issue in his blood. His body produces too much iron. He's a former airborne guy, Ranger qualified.
Wow.
Dude. And so I became his home medic to where I was giving him IVs and I'm drawing out the toxic blood as I'm pumping him full of fluids. And he would come to every class and I would do exactly what you saw, right? Like, yeah, there you go. Like I have all this gear. I have a bin right there just full of IV stuff and blood stuff.
It was a great way to be introduced to what we're doing.
Yeah. And I didn't think of it as the icebreaker as it was, but it really was. Like, it's like, okay, all right, now that that's over with, like, let's have a conversation, right? Let's talk about this.
Yeah. We got to learn working as a team, working different weapon systems, and you did a good job red teaming us and sneaking around and shooting us in the back and things like that. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. I will say I had a lot of fun with it.
That was cool.
The best thing is, and I think you learned this too, right? There's a lot of people who had zero experience.
Yeah, there were.
But they were the ones who did the best, right? Because they had no bad habits. What we trained them to do is what they did, right? Yeah. And then a lot of people that came in, even just like dear friends, career infantry dudes, SWAT team members would come through and they brought their habits. I'm not saying that their habits aren't appropriate, right? But they're not appropriate for you and your wife defending your kids if someone breaks into your house, right? Those dudes are high speed, go that direction, right? Expecting, doing things and expecting everyone to follow suit. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, we're going to break it down to the basics, and we'll red team to prove that the basics work, right? So
Yeah, it was brilliantly done. So much fun.
thanks. Yeah,
So-
I did that without Chat GPT. I just fucking thought of it, right?
Yeah, no Chat GPT back then. Yeah, it was all you.
Well,
That's
cool,
cool. You
because
got the coffee thing going.
yeah,
That's great.
the I love being a student, man. Like, I've always just loved it. And then when I got to be an instructor, it made me just want to go be a student even more to
Mhm.
learn things, right? So I always gave a shout out to PFC. I'll give a shout out right now, right? Progressive Force Concepts of Las Vegas. They were the first time that I experienced real training outside of uniformed guys teaching uniformed guys, right? Obviously former military guys, some of them just were police officers, SWAT dudes. Did you end up meeting Chad Lyman?
Maybe. I don't
Yeah, so,
remember many names.
anyway, just a legendary dude. He runs a company now called PJJ, Police Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Was
And,
he like that jacked dude?
yeah,
really
he's
jacked?
pretty jacked, older guy. Anyway, so I guess it gets moving to them. Like, and as much as I think as much as I think I know, and as much as I love to teach, right? They have forgotten more shit than I'll ever know, right? So I lean on them a lot. So every time I get to go train with them, especially when I was bringing them up here to do the live fire stuff, I never taught live fire, even though I'm qualified to do so, right? If I bring them up, then I get to sit in the stack and be a student again, right? And things that we learn, I'll take smaller groups and do it. But we had firing lines of 20, one instructor, right?
Wow.
With the firing line 20, he had it just completely dialed in and squared away. No, and random weapons, right? Guy would have an AK. This guy had an MP5. I had my AR-15. Guys were just running pistols, right? It doesn't matter. But the idea and the cadence and all those were the same, and he had it dialed in. It was really, really cool.
That's a good instructor, man. Yeah, working in attack or in the stack as a team was really fun. It's hard, but that was good. That was probably my favorite part. Hitting the last guy.
I actually have a picture of you running.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Just, doing it properly, like keeping, like, I'm in my stack, but I'm absolutely responsible for here.
Yeah.
It's weird because I put your brother as the team leader on purpose, right? Because he's a guy that had very, very little experience, but he's a smart dude, right?
Of course.
And he will work hard to try to get it right. And the helmet fire I saw on him, I was just laughing. I'm like, dude, just breathe. Like, first thing I taught you guys was just to breathe, right? Like, if in doubt, just move.
Just
right?
move. Yeah.
Don't
Get off the
sit.
X. Yeah.
He would sit there, and I'd be like, all right, fuck him up. Right? As soon as we stop moving, here we go.
I'm sure that.
It was really cool because once people started doing that, they would say it. They're like, move, just move.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it's come in handy because he's doing stuff like that with the Coast Guard and the DEA right now, like literal close quarters combat practice, things like that.
Your brother, you and your brother, right? You can't keep tabs on you guys. Like, what's next?
It's called ADD.
Yeah. My 14-year-old ADD son, like football, Hell Week has started this week, right? First day of 2
Oh, daily doubles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he's an ADD kid, and he's just like, I make him take the bus home from practice, right? And just the look on his face, like they're throwing so much at him, right? I'm like, and just football, right? Just go figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
he was a tech recruiter at the time, right?
Yeah.
Hurt his shoulder, so he got out of the Air Force. He's an ammo guy. And really, I'm not saying after taking the classes, but he clearly had this I want to serve thing, right? So he and I had so many conversations, and I hooked him up with, that's how we got into the Newburgh Fire, right? As a volunteer, right? And that opened up a path for him to become a cop. And then he makes detective. And then he's like wild hair, like Coast Guard, right?
Coast Guard,
officer, and it's right. And then DEA, I'm like, all right, I can't keep up with you, right? I text him all the time and we chat, and I still don't exactly know where he is at any given time, so it's okay.
Yeah, sometimes he can't tell you, but it's pretty interesting. Well, we should probably let Josh into the combo because people are wanting to hear what he has to ask, because you also took the vacation in Afghanistan.
Well, I'm more curious about
Did we lose
Frank
you?
because are you a tactical trainer full time, Frank?
I'm a tactical trainer 0 time now. I take
Oh,
that back. I have 4 friends that I no longer charge, right? I have 4 friends that I still train regularly, again, because I like training. Yeah, right. And it gives me an excuse to go and train, right? I even think I said it in a class, like I will never say that I'm trained. I'm not trained, right? I've had training and I want to sharpen my training, right? I have been trained how to use a Glock. I have been trained how to disassemble a Glock. And that's about the extent I would say that I'm trained on anything, right? Training to operate the Glock or the M4 or the whatever, right? Continuing training. And so one thing that motivates me is whenever I go do and receive some training and I learn something new, I get to pass it on to my core group that still lean on me to either do jiu-jitsu stuff or firearms training or big Muay Thai.
The
Right.
bag. Yes.
So yeah, so so I don't do it for as a job anymore. I do it as, my passion hobby.
100%.
Good.
Yeah. Well, it keeps you it keeps you connected, right?
Yeah.
And it keeps you sharp for sure. I love it. That's cool. So what are you doing right now? Do you have a full-time gig?
Yeah. Yep. It's funny. I don't do anything that I was ever trained to do. Right. I fell into my current career that I've been doing now since '08. So I guess I could label it my career now for 17 years. Right. I'm in technology sales, specifically in cybersecurity and specifically to the Department of Defense. They are my customer.
Wow. Cool. Good
Yeah.
customer.
Yeah. Well, they're a pain in the balls, if I'm being honest, but I
That
believe
sounds
in their
right.
missions. I'll do everything I can to support it. Right. The customers themselves are great, right? The people that use the technology that I um, sell is one word, right? But consult to and deliver. It's the government red tape of, procurement and life cycle and training and all those sort of things that they kind of get in their own way, right? Doge only made it worse, right? The government efficiency only made it worse.
Go figure.
Yeah, but the customers themselves, they're rad, right? Especially the guys in uniform. Uh, Josh, you've worked with them, right? The integrators, the Booz Allen Hamiltons and the Lockheeds and all those guys. Those are
Sure.
great. The government civilians they're great, right? Bless them. They make so little for what they do, right? And if you're in the government, you can only make so much compared to what you do, right? And they can take their skills into the industry and make a lot more, but they decide to stay, right? So
Well,
I get a lot of appreciation with those guys. That's what I do. That's my day job. I love it. Um, my customers, again, are rad. I get to travel as much as I want or don't want. I have to stay up on technology, which is fun having teenagers because they can tell me what's new. Uh, yeah, it is. You know, Going from the global war on terror with so much time, energy, and money was in that direction, right?
mhm.
Uh, Now everything is pointed in the Pacific region, and that's my territory, right? My sales territory is the Pacific. So
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying we're getting an influx of money, but we're definitely getting an influx of attention.
I bet. With China and all.
Yes, especially
Mhm.
China.
Yep.
I gotta grab my charger real quick, Miles. Give me 10
Right.
seconds.
One of the things that you guys started talking about was like having a deployment schedule that made sense. In the beginning, they had all these um parameters for a proper deployment, and it was like uh in the special operations forces world, it was like 3 months was a perfect deployment, or 4 months, something like that. And then for a conventional unit, it was 6 or 7 months, I believe. Early on, the Marine Corps said their perfect deployment was 7 months. And then
Mhm.
by the time the surge happens, like people are on 12-month rotations, 14-month rotations. People's
Mhm.
brain is just like, after that much time in country. Um, Jocko talks about it in his first book. Like, at the beginning, everybody's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and towards the end, like people are just glassy-eyed. Oh, another mission, exciting.
Yeah, exactly. You guys had
But
the Army had the longest deployments too, right? You guys would stay for a long time. I think that the
yeah,
SEALs were like 9 months.
the bigger the unit, the harder it is to move, the more expensive it is to move, and the harder it is to replace. So you end up just spending more time there. And I was just telling the audience that at the beginning they had all these wish lists, right? It was like, we're going to keep them down to 6-month deployments, or we're going to keep it to a 3-month deployment for the soft. And then that just goes out the window, right? As these things start to ramp up, and they realize that you don't have enough people, that you have to have a 6 million person army if you're going to try and do that. And that's not, of course, where we were. And so then everyone hates their job after a few years of that.
Yeah, I found it fascinating. And we'll probably go back to this a couple of times, right? The whole idea of learning history so it doesn't repeat itself, right? If you read the books about Vietnam, and they talked about how terrible the idea was of the 365-day tour, right? And we went right back to that shit. Right? And news just started leaving. They're like, this is stupid, right? We have airlift. We have airlift in a way, like, if you just think about, I know you weren't there, Josh, but if I tell you about 2001, the mobile airlift that got kicked in on September 12th, right, of getting stuff over there, and I never even did it in training, but had 2 Black Hawk helicopters folded up, blades folded, tails folded, in the back of a C-17.
Damn.
A bunch of maintenance guys, air crew, operators, right? We go lights out, and we start doing this flying spin, and we land. Whoop, they open that ramp before we even stop. They kick everything out, completely blacked out, and that plane takes off. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Right? They didn't even prepare us for this, right? And then I read a lot. I'm like, I haven't even read this sort of thing happening, but the maintenance guys knew what's going on. I'm like, how did you guys know this was happening? Right? They didn't. They were like, it just seemed like the thing to do. Bunch of cargo straps just started coming undone. Everyone just grabbing their stuff, get the fuck off the plane, and it took off. The C-17's leaving. They're gigantic, right? So we're getting blown back. And by the time I come to, the blades are out, the tails are folded. I think lights are coming on in the helicopters. I'm like, holy crap, right? And now that C-17 is on its way back to the States to pick up more and bring it back.
Damn.
If we think about just when the war kicked off, there's so much attention on that, but the logistics that it took to be able to say, okay, we are ready to go and support a war fighting effort now. Because you can't just send a team and just okay, you guys start, right? Because if something were to happen to them and we weren't able to resourcefully go and support them, what's the point, right? But even if you see in the movies, and some of it's true, right? If you look at the movie 12 Strong,
Oh,
right?
great movie. Yeah.
After 9/11, right? They showed this. I know it's Hollywood, but this tent city in Uzbekistan, right? Days after, right? Well, who did that? Right? Well, Booz Allen Hamilton and those guys at the cut, right? They were they had those things buttoned up, sitting for years, and they were like, oh crap, dust them off, put them in a plane, set them up.
Damn.
And set them up. And then my point is, because of airlift, people were getting in and out so frequently. And then suddenly they were like, well, it's not that we don't have the ability to rotate guys out every 90 days, 180 days, right? We'll just break in these airplanes if we do it. So that's what it came down to, right? Can we do we have the manpower to support? And I can really only speak to the Air Force side, the Air Force stuff on the ground, right? But again, when I'm flying around and going to other FOBs and stuff and thinking how much Army equipment, how many Apaches I saw lined up at one time, what it took to get all that there, right? I get not being able to rotate gear, but rotating people should be easy. And it is. Speaking because it's not my money, right? I don't own the C-17s, but putting the hours on those C-17s just to rotate people started to become a thing. Because if those things go down, we're screwed, right?
Yeah.
So the brilliant idea was just let's do this history thing again. 1 year's worth.
1 year tour, yeah.
And that kills people, man. Families,
Yeah.
One of my dearest friends, he was a helicopter gunner, career helicopter gunner. It's this great dude. He was the guy in the helicopter during the movie Lone Survivor, right?
No shit.
They filmed
Wow.
that in New Mexico, where there's the training school is, right, for search and rescue. So that was the perfect place to film this, right? Pretty similar to
Pretty similar. Yeah.
Afghanistan, right?
Mhm.
So that base that looked like, it was the auxiliary airfield of Kirtland Air Force Base where the helicopters are, right?
Huh.
So so anyway, my friend, his daughter is graduating high school in 9 months, and then he gets a 1-year deployment thing saying you're going. Is like, are you freaking kidding me?
Dude.
I'm an 18-year master sergeant, and you're going to send me on a 1-year tour. My kid's about to graduate high school, right? And then we all got all bougie. We're like, dude, we're in the Air Force. Like, we don't have to do that, right? They had to do it. So because we're just used to saying, like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, we'll rotate him out for there. But they were like, nope, we're instituting, at least for this group, right? We're instituting 1-year tours for the helicopter air crews. But this was later in the war where the burnout wasn't happening. Infrastructure set. Outback Steakhouse was there, right?
The Cinnabon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Like gyms and showers and, things that people like to have. Anyway, so I was thinking about the whole idea of a 1 year. And for someone who was on the fence of re-enlisting, if you're doing a 1-year tour, you're suddenly on the other side of the fence saying, I'm probably not going to re-up.
Mm. Yeah. That stop loss ain't working so well.
That was my experience. They give you had orders for the next deployment, and they gave me the re-enlistment paper. And so I'm sitting here like, I'm 20 years old. I'm a young sergeant, and I'm like, well, do I do another year in Baghdad, or do I do a year in Portland and study economics and drink beer?
What am I going to choose? Yeah.
Especially a 20-year-old, because we can't see that far into the future, right? We just know we're going to die soon anyway in our minds, right?
You bring up a good point, man. I mean, again, in the earlier part, I have pictures of buddies re-enlisting on helicopters, right? Full bearded out, right? Nothing on our body is issued except for our helmet and our night vision goggles, right? And with an American flag hanging, whipping around in the back, right? Giving their oath, flying over Afghanistan, getting re-enlisting, you get your bonus tax free, all those sort of stuff. And guys just regretting it. Like 2 years later, regretting it. They're like, yeah, that was a cool picture, but I've been back 3 times since.
Yeah.
Right. And there was no sign of sitting down.
Yeah. No, that's intense.
Well, it's like $20,000 or $40,000 or whatever it is. It's infinite money when you're young, and then you're a little bit older with kids, and you're like, what's a year with my kid worth? And that math starts to get completely different. And you're talking to somebody who had Star Spangled Eyes and like still believes in loyalty, duty, respect, self-service, honor, integrity, and courage. That those are the Army values, by the way.
Right. I came off your tongue a little too easily.
If you live it, it's easy.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, even if we just bring it like to the idea of mental health, right? If you made a decision to re-enlist, and then somewhere down that road, the decision, like, I don't regret may not be the right word, but like, hey, maybe not well thought out, right? Because me being a 48-year-old now, if I were to look 23-year-old Frank in the face and say, don't do it, right? 23-year-old Frank would choke out 40. Well, he would try. 48-year-old Frank, right? But it would not have made sense to not do what we did at that time, right? Like you said, like Star Spangled Eyes, I would have drank acid for my country at that moment, right? No question, right? Re-enlisting, that is a formality. Let's go kick ass, save some lives, and get this thing done. And and for me, if I just doing the math, right? I was 23. They're like you, young sergeant, right? And I just felt like that feel of invincibility, especially after having a lot of close calls. I was like, I could do this forever, right? And after 2 years, I was like, I can't do this another week.
Wow.
Right?
Weird.
And so it's hard to tell yourself, you know, like I can convince myself that I'm Superman, right? And at the same time, I'm telling myself, dude, I'm lying to myself, right?
Mm.
Now, I will execute and I will do what I said I was going to do and committed to. And we have so many good dudes, right? And women that are still in my life, and we were doing it for each other. That's all true, right? But the profound effect it had, especially in the early days when we didn't have the mental health support systems that are in place now, right? We were just dealing with it on our own, right? The idea of, you know, talking it out back then wasn't happening, right? Even the idea of going to mental health. I don't know how it was in the army, but the idea, like if you go to mental health, right? You're also essentially, when you walk in that door, you're essentially shutting the door on your flight orders, on
Yep.
your aeronautical orders, right? If you're seeking that, then you're giving up that. And so for people who spent their entire lives wanting to be pilots, right? And getting flight pay and having a cool ass mission like flying search and rescue helicopters or flying an F-16 or super cool stuff like that, and know that they're struggling, but they know that if I go get help for this, then I'm no longer going to fly. And flying is like the one thing I love. All the bullshit around it, maybe they don't love deploying, the operational tempo, being away from your family, right? But they don't want to give up the flying, so they just continue to do it. Well, if you continue to do it, and then more bad things happen, or you don't handle the stress well, or you know you mask it with alcohol, then
Yep.
that just compound. And that's what it was, man. From the early days to, I would say, maybe, I don't know, Josh, first 10 years, maybe, like, I don't remember ever anyone offering like, hey, you want to talk about it? Right. And then something happened around 2011, 2012. Like, dude started dropping out suicide. That's when the 22 a day, like,
Yep.
kicked in. Right. And that's because, bro, I can throw a dart on a calendar and say, this is when the shit went down.
Wow.
Wow.
Because we had zero suicides in our real small community, right? We had zero suicides, and still we didn't have a lot of the typical suicides, right? I mean, we've had those too,
Mhm.
right? But I remember the very first, man, because I went down the road of starting a nonprofit. We'll talk about that later, right? Or during this is
Yeah, for sure.
Keith Altenhofen. I don't mind saying his name because his sister and I are tight. His son is now in the Air Force. He's a professional soccer player also. Like
Damn.
he went to the Air Force Academy and was like mountain athletic, like player of the week every week.
Wow.
Got drafted by Seattle to play soccer and is also a pilot training. Like, how badass is he?
Yeah.
Keith's nephew, anyway, right? So Keith died out of nowhere. We're like, what the hell? Like, it hit me like a ton of bricks because he's prior Army, funny dude, and would be like, you know, the last to ever do something like that. But he didn't do it in a typical fashion. He masked his stress with alcohol. And the only way that we knew that is, you know, we just did it forensically. He owed like $1,300 or $1,400 to the bar at his squadron.
Man.
So when you land from a flight, typically you go debrief, and if we're all adults here, right, we'll go and the squadron bars have tap handles with beer and liquor bottles and all those sort of things. As long as you're legal to do it, you do it, right? But you also just kind of write down like, this is what I owe, right? Maybe it was that the officers club or something like that, where he ran up a tab
Sure.
of $800 and stuff on base is like free, right? Not free, but kind of like $1 a drink sort of
Uh-huh.
thing. Pretty much just paying for the convenience of keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
So if he ran up a $1,300 debt, and that means he was also paying it off at times, right? How much was he drinking?
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of a functional alcoholic was he? Right.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
so no mental health support except for the bar. Right. And so again, when you're a really good helicopter pilot, like, helicopters fall out of the sky all the time. Right. It's wild that we volunteer to go up into these things. Right. Dudes hire with thousands of hours of helicopter experience. But you talk to them, all of them have had mishaps, hard landings, right? Drug one through the trees, right? Like almost near midair collisions, all of them, right? Now, when those things happen, there's mental health professionals like Miles, right? That are built in to say, okay, let's unpack this to make sure that we're good to go, that we're squared right, that we're clear to fly. We
Mhm.
didn't have any of that. So Keith was drinking himself and literally drank himself to death on purpose.
Wow.
I call that suicide, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone's telling him, dude, you are drinking way too much. We know why you're doing it. That sucks. You need to stop. Everyone's offered to take him to rehab. At this point, dude, they're like, you're not even flying anymore anyway because no one trusts you, that sort of thing. And he just a bottle. And he even said when he had this last bottle was like something like, this might be my last one. And it wasn't like I'm quitting, right? He just knew his health was so poor that he drank himself to death. So to answer your question, Josh, that was number one. And dude, systematically, they just started happening.
In similar fashion, or it started to get more brutal?
No, so I mean, rare was the they took out a gun, right, and
Yeah.
did it, but those happened too. Guys just that weren't taking care of themselves were just accepting the fact that it's better just to numb it and die than to deal with it, right?
Yep.
The war hero, Silver Star recipient, helicopter pilot, was so I won't say his name because I love his family so much, but his I remember him on flight status asking for like pain meds, right? Because his back fucked up just from sitting the
Yeah.
government, not the most
Yeah.
for so long. And then even this quick side story, even you might even remember Josh, right? There was a medication that was stronger than Motrin, but not as strong as some others. It was called Vioxx, right? An anti-inflammatory.
Hmm.
They were pumping us full of that. And then the FDA said, this is terrible for you. Right. I'm like, wow, that sucks. Right. So those sort of things to where he needed narcotics to manage his pain. He needed narcotics to manage his pain in order to be able to fly. That means he's on narcotics flying.
Flying. Yeah.
Right. Like it hurts. And so now he's an addict. He's a junkie, lost his career pretty much because of it. Right. Because his son was a professional, like X game guy. Right. And so he would steal like his rigs and go pawn them to buy
Oh yeah.
payment. Right.
That's when it's getting bad. Yeah.
He takes his mom on a cruise, and because and at customs they found his stash and they're like, you can't take it, right? So he went on this cruise without any, had to draw so hard that he died.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Like sort of a heart failure thing or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's another example of it just happening in such a weird way. Yeah, but there were the dudes that that shot themselves, that would shoot themselves. There were the guys that would OD on purpose, right? Big fat syringe full of stuff, jab it into their vein and go for it, right?
Yeah.
Because so they would black out and just not wake up, right? They knew it, right? Because some of them are medics, and that's they know that this is what those stuff does do.
Yeah.
But we're stretched there, man. It felt like it was every week or two, because it was. And it wasn't until like we just started, in a homegrown effort. Thank goodness Facebook existed, right? Everyone let's just fucking get into a group. It became a 1,400 person group real quickly to where we were checking in on them. And you didn't even have to be part of the community, right? If someone knew someone was struggling, we had 1,400 people scattered across the world. Someone go help someone, right? Go do a buddy check on a dude that you never met before, that sort of thing. And that was good. And that helped. But then when, it's really hard when the old demons still weren't treated, right? It's great that we're handling the new stuff, but the old stuff still wasn't being treated, and those would still surface every once in a while, and it still does.
Yeah. Yeah. And the VA is awesome at helping with that, I'm sure.
Well, I think
that's a whole nother topic.
Frank, your experience speaks to the quality of both the small size of your unit and the quality of the screening process, right? For the people that are on your team and in your, I don't know, wing. I don't know what they call it over there in the Air Force, but the 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 conversation for mental health started so much earlier than that, and was so much more of a grind on the Army. And I remember in 2005, I'm sure my fellow soldiers have nightmares about getting back from mission, and you had to like take a mandatory suicide prevention class because so many people had committed suicide on the deployment that they were like, okay, everybody's getting a screening right now. Everybody's doing it right now. And it was early on, but there was all kinds of there was even a police unit that was tasked to investigate certain areas because so many people would wait until they were on sentry duty where they were armed and by themselves, right? And then so there was like cops walking around checking on different positions to make sure that people weren't going to dust themselves off. And I don't think it is for anything out of the ordinary than just, or more than just, you take a person and you take them away from their support structure and then you place them into a tough situation, and then you double the length, triple the length of that situation. So when you're 19, 20-year-old, 21-year-old male, your world, a week is a long time for you. And so all of a sudden you're not going to get back home. Your girlfriend or your fiance left you, and now you're feeling like everything is just getting away from you. That was one of my memories of being back in the rear for a hot second or for longer than that, is that it was a grind, and you could feel it. You could feel that it wasn't a positive vibe.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing. Actually, I had no idea, but it also makes sense, and none of it surprises me, unfortunately. Right. So if we just unpack that, right, let's just take a 19-year-old kid, right, and we'll look at this in parallel, right? Screening and like, I hate using this word. Let's just use it, right? Elite, right? So you don't just say, I want to go into special operations, and then show up to the house and they throw you a cool gun and some sunglasses and say, go for it. Right. there's a level of screening and qualification. And let's just face it, right? A requirement of maturity that is different, that doesn't really allow a lot of 18 and 19-year-olds to even apply. Right. And if they do, and they make it, well, because they went through a training cycle that's so hard, that you've proven that you have that maturity at an early age, right? Mm-hmm. What does it take for a 17-year-old who will be 18 in a month? What does it take for him to become an 11 Bravo in the Army? And this is not a slam on 11 Bravos, because I love my 11 Bravos, right? But I also know a bunch of dudes that probably shouldn't be 11 Bravos that made it anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And like what we were talking about under an hour ago, right? If you need a body and he's technically qualified, send him. Right? To where on this side of the house, you have a bunch of dudes who are so mission focused and part of the intelligence planning and part of the cell, right? We don't feel like we're essentially a cog in the system, even though we were, right? We just had a little more life experience. We had definitely had we had an advantage in the sense that we could we had an advantage that we were able to I don't know, it's even hard to put it into words, right? But if we just say like squared away, right? Mentally, we were just a little more squared away than our 11 Bravo brothers and our Marine infantrymen, right? Not by a lot, but enough to say that typically we're older. That's true, right? We're probably on our second enlistment minimum. True, right? Some of us have some schooling, but it definitely, we went from one job and then got into this type of work. Or you're a pilot and you went to 4 years of college and 2 years of flight school and all those sort of things, right? None of us were 18-year-olds holding rifles that were bigger than them, right? So, but the guys that were going through some of the hardest shit were them, right? For longer amounts of time. Even I said it at the beginning, when the shit was the hairiest, early 2002, the deployments were shorter. Right? And then once things stabilized a little bit, when it became less of a special operations effort and became more of a conventional effort, the tour, the war didn't seem as hairy, but the tours were longer. But when the battle started happening, the Fallujahs and the like, right? You have conventional infantrymen duking it out, and their best friends are getting their head blown off, right? Those sort of things. And we didn't have the best that they can do for mental health. I didn't know this. I'm making this up, but it sounds right, Josh, right? The best that they can do for mental health, you come back from a mission, you do a screening. That's your mental health check. No, I don't think I'm going to commit suicide tonight. Right? Is that mental health? That's what they had. We didn't, right? So it just sounds crazy, but that's what it was. Instead of like sending chaplains out there to go talk to dudes or guys like Miles, what do? They sent 18-year-old MPs to make sure that guys aren't shooting themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm standing, right, Josh?
Yep.
Right? So look, how crazy is that, right?
Insane.
And we're the biggest, most sophisticated and advanced fighting force the world has ever seen. And we have dudes still committing suicide from a war that technically ended 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's wild.
It doesn't make any sense. And it seems like a conflict of interest still. And it's the same in like the LEO world where you have a psychologist you can talk to, but they, for like you were saying before, they can take you off the line if they think they need to. So who's talking to that person? The brilliant thing is like everyone can talk to the chaplain, right? So everyone loves the chaplains. LEO world, military world, you're clear hot. No one, they're not going to tell anybody. So everyone loves the chaplains. We are like the plague. You know, nobody wanted to talk to us. Like, get the fuck away from me. Unless you want it out, then you can be like, yeah, I'm nuts.
Yeah,
Take, like, send me home or whatever. Yeah. Bad setup.
Yeah. The other thing that Josh, you mentioned is when I started this Facebook group, and then a buddy of mine who was never in the military, he was actually a former UFC fighter. He read Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe.
Great book.
Yeah. And then he read it and he called me. I remember it vividly. Like, wife and I just like finished up like eating lunch. Kids are out of the house for some reason. I get a text. He's saying, I want to do this. I'm like, Nate, I need a little more information, right? Like, he sends a screenshot of a podcast that Younger did talking about his book, right? So Younger, who wrote Perfect Storm, right? World War, right? So we know him in our community because he wrote The Perfect Storm, documenting the search and rescue efforts from the storm, right? And they made a movie out of it, right? Where Air Force search and rescue was highlighted.
Right.
You know, they didn't do a terrible job, right? It was pretty cool. To where a PJ was lost, right? So I pay attention to what Younger does because I just had respect for him. Well, he was embedded in the war, PTSD himself, and he was like, man, it's interesting because as he wrote it, and he wrote it in Tribe, the whole idea of Tribe, not the whole idea, but part of the idea is a lot of these dudes do well because they are put into an environment where they do have a support system. Josh, I'm sure you experience this, right? Like your squad, your platoon, your company, your battalion, right? Yours. Now imagine that's your identity, especially guys that are out there in the shit, right? Infantrymen, rangers, and the like. That's your identity now, right? You even have the thing hanging on your wall. It's part of who you are. If you leave on your own, your chances of being mentally stable and successful in navigating the rest of life is much higher than if you're pulled out of it, right? Because if you're pulled out of it, you're having your identity taken away from you.
Yep.
Right? That's where the adjustment is the hardest.
Yes.
Well, part of the adjustment is the hardest, right? Your identity is your squad. I'm going to make this up. I'm an infantryman, right? Maybe I re-enlisted. I made sergeant. I have guys under me, right? And then a vehicle blew up next to me, and now I have a TBI, but I still know who I am. I'm still capable of doing things, but now I'm out of the Army when I plan on being in for 20 years.
Bad. Yeah.
Yep. And all I know is this, right? Now you don't have that, and you might get a check from the VA.
Yep.
Right? Those sort of things like that. That is why dudes are lost, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Because it was not the ones who were forced out were not, without disrespecting them, you really need to hold their hands in the process.
Yeah.
And the transition assistance program, TAPS, right? That was a 1-hour meeting saying your VA is over there.
Yep.
And that's about it.
And here's how to get a job, maybe, if you want to.
Yeah, maybe, right? And that was about it. Oh, and here's how you file unemployment. When I
Right.
left active duty to go to the reserves, I had to go to a TAPS briefing, right? They're like, you're going into the reserves, you can file for VA benefits and disability. I'm like, I'm going into the reserves. I'm not leaving. They're like, it's different. This is active duty. I'm like, that sounds crazy to me. Should have done it, right? But the guys who were getting out were paying attention to that, right? And the only thing that the only other thing they told me is, hey, when you go to your reserve unit, unless you're on orders, you can file unemployment. I'm like, what? Really? Right. So when I got to Oregon in 2004, I went to the unemployment office. I thought, this sounds crazy, but I'm told I can do this. I gave them my DD-214 and they started kicking me checks every week. I'm like, this is crazy. Right. And then only when I was on orders did I not get those checks. I'm like, weird. But anyway, because I left on my own. I left active duty on my own to go to the reserves. When I left the reserves, I left on my own.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until I learned it was the ones that were pulled out and they were losing their identity, therefore losing their tribe, therefore losing their minds.
That is so true. Yeah, back to that book. It's such about the community. You lost your brotherhood, you lost your identity all in like a 24-hour period. And then you're going back to the civilian world where you're not really that familiar with and no one can understand you. What do you think's going to fucking happen? You know, and it all goes to your spouse. All that pressure goes to your spouse. There's only so much they can handle if you even have a spouse at that age. It's a perfect storm of disaster.
Sure. And even dependents, right? Spouses and children, right? They were used to a military type of lifestyle as well, right? Especially if they lived on base, right? On one base schools, right? And base daycare and the commissary and the BX, right? Everyone there, most of the people there have something in common, right? Someone in that house wears uniform and reports to work, right? And that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as and I use my example now, I'm just sitting in my garage with my garage door open, right? I'm one of two veterans in my circle of a street. And the other guy is a retired colonel. Wasn't a pilot, but was like an Air Force colonel, was a logistics guy during peacetime, right? It was perfect, like 71 to 91, right? So no experience in combat. It's great. I love him to death, right? Good dude, right? A lot of houses with a lot of people, and I'm the only dude with veteran plates, right? I don't relate to any of these guys.
There you go.
Right? In my job, I'm lucky. Again, I'm lucky. I get to go talk to military dudes every day.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard for me to process if I wasn't selling to the Department of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there has been times in my career where I did sell to people to the commercial side of the world. Right? And want to talk about loss. And I think I'm pretty squared away. Right? There was a time I'm like, I don't like not being involved in that. And it was one of the weirdest things. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Nate said, I want to do this, what he wanted to do was what Sebastian Younger said in his podcast, to do these town hall things. Because this is what the warriors of the past used to do.
Yes.
Especially stands right. We'll just do a quick history lesson. And by the way, Alex would nail all these trivia questions. I don't know how he do all these things.
Don't play Trivial Pursuit with him.
Yeah, I've heard, right? So if we go back to like the Roman Empire or the Spartans or whatever, right? There was not a lot of fighting at night, right? Couldn't see shit.
Yeah. So
those warriors accepted the fact as the sun was going down, we're wrapping it up.
We're done.
Right.
Yeah.
See you guys in the morning and we'll kick each other's asses then. So they go back to their prospective camps, set campfires, and they talk it out.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Your best friend and your brother got their heads chopped off today. Right. And that's terrible. Right. They comfort them, arms around them. As soon as they got back to the home base, they welcomed them in. And that's all they did for months was help them decompress from
process. Yeah.
Right. So that was the town hall meeting. We stopped doing that the minute we could start fighting at night. Right. And the idea of sleep was getting so important. The sleep was important. So even in Vietnam, right, they would start doing night patrols.
Mm-hmm.
Read the books, right? Those dudes were up for more than 24 hours at a time. I have duty today. Right?
All day.
You could just on patrol, hiking through the jungle, sweating your ass off. You're certainly dehydrated. You're underfed.
Yeah.
You're underslept. And you've already been up for 24 hours and the duty day just started. Right. So we went completely backwards
Good call.
in that regard.
Mhm.
Right. But the idea of just talking it out, taking breaks and talking it out was the very first step in bringing those who have similar backgrounds, right? Because Josh and I, we've never met, but if we sat down, it'll take us about 27 seconds for us to say, we know this guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where were you? Where were you? This day, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now we have someone that we know in common with 2 or 3 degrees of separation, right?
Mhm.
We just had a conversation and now I can relate to Josh, right? In the civilian world, you really don't get that, right?
Yeah.
And when we did our first town hall, we call it vet speak, like veterans speaking, right? We use Sebastian Younger's template. Veteran gets up, he can talk about anything he wants, minus politics. Just can't just say like
Smart.
president sucks, whatever, right? Like, but if they started to do that, I'm not going to stop them, right? And the only other rule is you can't interrupt them. Let them talk. At the end, when they're done, and they go back and grab a donut and coffee, if they want to answer questions, that's fine, right?
Mhm.
Well, someone from the Oregonian was there. I didn't know that, right? Took pictures and made a story. And dude, it hit Stars and Stripes. I had no clue.
No way.
Right?
Wow.
Telling me it hit Stars and Stripes. I'm like, oh, cool. And my name's all on it. I'm like, I don't like that. Right? I don't. Doesn't matter, right? And then because my email address was on there, I started getting blown up. And this guy, Travis Luscano, I hooked you up with Travis, right, Miles?
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Travis Luscano, former Marine, enlisted, turned out he went to medical school to do work like Miles, and did that for the Air Force on a very, very like big scale, big deal, dude, right?
Oh yeah.
Got retired, moved to Portland, and life suddenly sucks, right? Talk about, he would be walking downtown Portland, he would see someone with veteran plates on the car, he would stand there and wait for that person.
Wow.
Just so he could strike up a conversation to say, hey man, I was in the military too, right? That sort of
Yeah.
thing. When he saw that article, he hit me up and now we're bros, right?
Mhm.
And so he came and gave his story and told that story about how he would look for, see the veteran plate
Mhm.
and wait to have that conversation. And now he's in Okinawa serving special tactics because he's like, this is my tribe. Like, found out the hard way how much that was part of him, right? This is a dude who's a clinical psychologist,
Exactly.
right? It fucked him up to leave the tribe,
Yeah.
right? He knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
He's written books on this,
Yes.
and it still happened to him, right?
You can't. Yeah.
I got to get back in the fight, right? He's been there
Yeah.
since. So
Yeah.
anyway, just the idea of having the forum. I've had 2 dudes specifically tell me that they were this close to ending it. We invited them to Vet Speak. They came and talked, and they're live. I don't know how well they are, right? It's hard to keep track of everyone. But I was also like really impressed with some dudes. Like I knew them for years. I didn't know how involved their stories were, right? The Oregon National Guard in the early days of Iraq did the infantry dudes did a very, very special operations type of mission, and a movie has been made out of it, like a independent documentary.
Oh, really?
I've known those guys for years. I had no idea that they were involved in, and it's no wonder some of them are kind of fucked up, right?
Yep.
Just because they went through that, they took on that assignment, executed it, lost some dudes. They're infantrymen that didn't get the care and feed that special operations got, but they were expected to do the job anyway, right? And because they never had a chance to talk about it.
Mhm.
So when one of them got on stage to talk about it, he was like, man, I haven't told a story in 9 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Just
you
holding
should
it.
become that story every day.
Hell yeah.
Right.
And you guys had a podcast going for a while too.
Yeah. The podcast was even cooler because I was just looking for dudes, right? Like a guy that your brother works with now, I think he's a current he was an active duty helicopter pilot. Then he joined California Guard so he can become a DEA agent too, right?
Okay.
So he's kind of like you guys, like can't wear enough hats, right? So he's a DEA agent in Portland That's where his first assignment was, but he still flies. He heads out to California for his weekend duty to fly helicopters.
Mhm.
Right? And this is funny, dude. Like he, I would cry, dude. I will send you the picture. He got like an Uber sticker made and put it on the helicopter. as he as they would fly it, and like, not if they're not doing combat shit, but hey, you're a helicopter, go take these dudes there. They're like, that's not what we do.
Yes.
Go do it anyway. It's like, that's stupid. We're the QRF. We're on standby to do search and rescue. They're like, you guys aren't doing shit. Go fly that dude over there. So he was like, so we're Uber now. Okay, cool. Right. So Devin, he was like one of the dudes, right? I just knew him through the Facebook group. I'm glad this is like coming around, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know who Devin was from anyone, Devin Sperling. But we became Facebook friends because of the group I started. And then I saw his post. I was like, this dude is hilarious, right? Of course, he got his hand slapped for doing the Uber thing. Didn't stop him. He was like, what are you gonna do? Like,
Whatever.
yeah, like if you're gonna get me in trouble for that, that's pretty lame. But anyway, he was one of the first guests, and he talked about like, and he even took it to like a micro level, like dating, right? How hard it is for dudes like us and Josh and him, right, to date people. We have dating to our neighbors, right? Imagine trying to like woo a girl in a city like Portland, where there's no active duty military anywhere.
Right.
Closest active duty military to us is 2.5 hours north, right? And that's hardcore military. That's 2nd Ranger Battalion and 1st Special Forces Group,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of National Guard around here, but again, that's not active, right? So
Yeah.
having it, like, really weird for me too. Like my spouse, right, had no idea what military really was when we first met.
Mhm.
And I was already going to war and about to deploy again. It's when I first moved here, joined the reserve, moved here, met her, and then did a deployment, right? She had really had no idea. But and so he just mentions like, he's like, you know what it sounds like, what we sound like to them. And he used it, and I still laugh about it to this day. If you try to talk to a girl who's really into CrossFit and you're not, you're like, will you shut the fuck up about that? Right? And that's totally relatable, right?
That's
I know a lot of people who are obsessed with it.
Uh-huh.
I'm not obsessed with it. I appreciate it, right? Those sort of things. But I have talked to people who are obsessed with it, and I can't have a conversation with them. Right?
That's a good analogy.
Get it, right? Because my brain has a very, very specific, like, processors, right? And a lot of it has the conversation that comes out of my mouth sometimes is very military like, and I'm sure that turns a lot of people off. You see what I'm saying?
Totally.
So you have a hard time
It's
relating to
like-
people, neighbors,
I
whatever.
feel like
and you
you're
have
being
a hard
too
time dating.
gentle. That's such a gentle comparison, CrossFit to the military experience. That's a little too gentle. People, you're like an alien in Portland, man. The first conversation that I had, this is a true
Yeah.
story. This is the one we want to clip for
true.
TikTok. We want to go viral because it's hilarious. I'm logging in on my first .edu email, and a girl next to me, you know, I'm 21 or whatever. I'm thinking, oh, you know, college girl, this is happening. This is fun. She's like, she looks over at my screen and she sees that I was logging in with an army email to get to exchange it for to link it up to my PCC email. And so she goes, were you in the army? And like, kind of like annoyed. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, did you ever kill anyone? That's her first question.
Wow.
And so my first response was like, nobody important. I mean, just women and children. Like, you know, that was my
the gallows humor, yeah.
right. What are you gonna say to that? Like, what? There's
Look
no
how big our
conversation
smiles
that you
are right
want
now
to have.
because we're laughing. Wow. Yeah, dude.
But that's it. Like
So
you're an
that- so
alien. You're a murderer.
Yeah.
It's not good.
100%, right? I saw, I don't watch a lot of television, but I was flying once. I saw an episode of, it was either SEAL Team or Six or something, like one of those Navy SEALs movies, right? But it was so relatable because the dude is telling a story. He was a black guy. It was funny. Yeah, I remember now. He was a SEAL. He was black. He was also a Harvard graduate, right? So sometimes he goes and hangs out with his Harvard grad friends who are like lawyers or whatever. And so one of them gives him a hard time for being a baby killer or whatever, right? So earlier in the day when he's in the team room, he's telling this story about how a 20 millimeter round hit this dude and pretty much cut him in half. And they're all just cracking up like we just were.
Yeah.
Right. And then he told the exact same story 12 hours later. And they're one of those just complete stone faced, like
Dead
just
silence.
right. So when Josh just told that story, we're laughing because you're like, only women and children. Of course you didn't kill women and children, but that's fucking hilarious the way it's told. And you could just imagine the reaction on her face, right? We immediately went to, that's funny as shit. And she's probably traumatized. Like, oh, this dude, right? Whatever. Yeah, 100%, man. Aliens.
Hopefully.
Complete alien life. It was weird because when I was my part-time job, when I was a reservist after I got hurt, I bartended part-time at a really nice bar restaurant downtown that used to be there, Henry's, right? Really cool place. And I had a lot of my dear friends to this day are from there. Best man at my wedding I met at Henry's, right? I would leave base and go to Henry's and I would change in the bathroom and I would come in uniform just because I'm like, oh shit, my shift starts in 27 minutes. It takes 23 to get there if I'm hauling ass. Running up the stairs, I'm either in BDUs or a flight suit, right? With my bag. And then I come out, Superman, total style, just get into my bar outfit. And twice I had employees saying, I don't agree with you. I'm like, you don't agree with what? Like what did I do this time? Right? I don't agree with the military. And then I would just look them still in their face. I'm like, aren't you lucky that guys like me exist so you can have that opinion?
Exactly right.
Well, by the way, I actually don't give a fuck what you think. I could not care less what you think. Especially what you think about me. Right? So if I don't care what you think about me, do I really care about what you think about the military? Right? Can you move over? I gotta go clock in. Right? So but yeah, so it was one of three looks. It was just like, the fuck is happening? Well, I guess at least I gave them the credit for having the balls to say something, right?
Sure.
I kind of like that about them. There were the ones who were just kind of weird about it, and then there were the ones that were just super, super cool about it, right?
Yeah.
Again, one of my best friends to this day is now a lieutenant colonel in the Washington National Guard, and I was his only military contact. We were bartending together. He wanted to join the military. He had his degree, got him connected with Dan Schilling, famous author, combat controller, was Mogadishu, is a world record base jumper, I believe, and that now does ski shooting or whatever with parachutes.
Underachiever.
Yeah, completely. For an older dude who's in Salt Lake City, just give him props out to Dan. Wrote a beautiful book about John Chapman. And it was my one guy that has a lot of juice. And I love Johnny so much that I connected. And he wrote him a letter of recommendation. So John is now Lieutenant Colonel Dalrymple in the Washington National Guard because
Awesome.
of my job at that bar, at the bar. Anyway, just putting it all together, like.
That's cool.
And he was obviously he was the one of the that's fun. What's that?
It's a beautiful circle of life, right? And what it's cool is like
Sure.
so the fact that people push back on you doesn't change the fact that you're still willing to do whatever you can to help the people around you. And the only unfortunate part about that experience that you're sharing is that person who came up to you to give you their opinion, stupid as it may be, they're right as it may be, is in their mind they're speaking truth to power, like they're telling their important truth to somebody in uniform. And I think that's the action of an immature person who hasn't done a lot of living or traveling or read a lot of books, in my humble opinion.
However it works. Yeah, I didn't think about that we don't have a whole lot of big bases around here. We got little army bases, and we have the National Guard, the Coast Guard base that Alex and I use. I do the auxiliaries, active duty reserve. We share with the Marines, and it's funny because their Century guys have like plate carriers and M4s, and our guys have, can I check your ID? And have no weapons. Like, we rely on the Marines to like keep the base safe.
Actually I talk about that a lot when I'm comfortable in my job right now, but when I interview for work and I was like, yes, I am an account manager and I sell to the DoD, which means I've been on an airplane to go do that, right? Because there's no, active duty in this area. And that just is a memory jog. It's just a thing for me. Like whenever anything cool happens at the National Guard or Reserve base by the airport, right, I try to go check it out. Like they got the new F-15s in there. I was like, I'm gonna go check that shit out, right? So I do. Well, I think it's cool, right? Just staying close to it. But whenever I go to active duty bases, it's total nostalgia, right? It's cool. Now it's just different because I used to fly in the back of C-130s or C-17s, and now I upgraded to first class on Alaska Airlines all the time. It's
Yeah.
now they call me sir when I come on base because normally in my current job, I'm the bearer of bad news. Like your cybersecurity sucks, General, right? Yeah, I do, right? So sort of thing. So I'm there to help them. But so traveling for work and staying close to the military helps me, right? So I can only imagine for those who they don't have that type of situation, right?
Mhm.
And why I push, and this is, take this in any direction you want, right? Why I stay close to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Good call.
3 reasons, right? Number 1, it's fucking hard, right? Doesn't matter how good you are, someone's better, right? And even if you are the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the world, there is a guy that can beat you.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I beat you all the time, right? But he will catch you because he can do something better. That's just the dynamic of it, right? So the fact that it's hard and no matter how good you get, it's always going to be hard, kind of sounds military, right? Because if you're comfortable in your job in the military, in the armed forces, you're the guys that get made fun of, right? If your uniform is always perfect and your haircut is always perfect and you have time to do online school during your shift, you're not out there doing the job, right? You're not on airplanes. You're not at the range shooting. You're not out there rucking. You're not working out. You're the guys that Josh and I would make fun of, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that if it stays hard, then it's one of those respect things, right? Like they're in the shit, they're earning it all the time. You're going for it. You don't want to be comfortable, right? Very military like.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is there's very much a rank structure, right? There's a uniform and there's belts, just like there's a uniform and there's stripes or there's bars or whatever, right? And you have to earn rank. Nothing is given to you, right? And I will tell you stories like in both military and jiu-jitsu, like how the fuck did that guy get promoted, right?
Right.
You say that about me, right? Like how did he get? How is he a brown belt? Like that sort of thing, right? Where like how the hell did he make NASA? Right over that guy, right? That guy's way better, right? Those sort of things, and that's what the dynamic of it. There's the dude who's clearly in charge, right? The alpha, the commander, or the first sergeant, or however you want to see it. And then there's the people that are learning from him. And dude, Josh, I will tell you, if you don't do it right, there's so much military that happens in there because you go in there and you train for an hour and a half, and then it's 30 minutes to an hour of just like catching up and like, hey man, like, hey, does anyone have a good house painter? And the guy over there, like, dude, I know how to paint houses. Let's just do this. And people will show up with painting supplies and barbecue like things the next weekend. Very military like you're not going to pay to get your house painted. The 5 of us are going to knock your house out, and then we're going to drink beer and talk about it.
Yeah. Instant
right?
community.
Totally. The other part of it is, it's like there's military, then the community, right? There's more gyms now in Portland than there used to be. Obviously, that's just the nature of it. That's cool, right? But I can travel anywhere, right? And I can go to any gym. And I'm just saying, hey, my name is Frank. This is where I train. I'm a brown belt. I love to train with you. Big hug. Never met the dude before. May not even speak the same language. We just kind of get it. We train and we do it, right? Go anywhere. Josh can attest to it. I could look at your shoes, your pants, your shirt, right? Your beard, the backwards flag on your thing, right? The dip in your mouth, your hat. Look, hey, dude, I'm going to have a conversation with them, right? I might miss my flight because like, within a couple minutes, like we know the same people were doing the same thing, right? So the community of it, right, is just something that I will cherish forever, right? And so that's military and jujitsu, right? Because when you really can't tell jujitsu guys unless they're wearing a shirt that says jujitsu, or they have ears that look like mine, right? Hold on, let me get rid of this call. But when we start talking, from what I just said earlier, right, we have this respect and appreciation for each other because jujitsu is not easy, right? I guess there's a fourth thing, right? When my son pointed this out to me, and I kind of got on this horse. Fighters don't fight, right? So jiu-jitsu is, I can say this because I've done a lot of martial arts. Jiu-jitsu is the hardest specialty. You're not going to get a black belt at 7 like you can in Taekwondo, right? You're not going to get anything but 8-7, right? It's completely merit-based. I think the average, if you go all in, it still takes about 8 to 9 years to get black belt, right?
Yeah.
Been doing it for decades. I'm still a brown belt. I just can't put as much time as others can to it.
Right.
Journey is mine. I don't care. But what my son Charlie has said, and very wise 14-year-old, and Miles, you remember him when he was like 2, right? So he said, what I learned is, because he wrestles and he does jujitsu too, is like fighters don't fight, right? If me if I'm in an environment where it feels like someone is trying to pick a fight with me, I don't need to fight. I definitely don't need to bow up and like all those sort of things. Like I know I could dismantle that guy. I'd rather just talk my way out of it. Right now, obviously, if he's injuring someone else, then I'm going to use jujitsu and break it up and also subdue him or whatever. But what you never see is 2 fighters in the street fighting. Right?
Good call.
If someone knows how to fight, you can YouTube it. Someone who knows how to fight against someone who thinks he knows how to fight, and then he just gets smashed.
Yeah.
There's a big video of a bodybuilder who goes into a jiu-jitsu gym and just talking shit, and the instructor just toys with him, comically toys with him, right? So where then he brings in a female black belt who's half bodybuilder side, and she even has an easier time with him, right? Because he underestimated her, that sort of thing, right? So when and it's the same thing with military guys, right? I mean, depending on a blood alcohol level, right? Military dudes are just going to sit there and be bros, right? We don't have to convince each other. Now, blood alcohol level goes a little higher. We start talking shit, but then we'll probably just bro hug it out at the end, right? But the similarities in jiu-jitsu and the military is one of the reasons I try to convince everyone that I know to do it, because regardless if you're in the military or not, if you leave the military and you walk into a jiu-jitsu gym, there are so many similarities, right? The idea that you're training for combat is kind of real, right?
Yeah.
If you train for combat in the military, how much of that combat is going to relate to what you can do in the street? Not a lot, right? You're not jocked up with an M4 and night vision goggles, right? You might conceal carry, and that's great, right? But the idea of jiu-jitsu is that I can just walk in the street confidently, knowing if something goes down. Now, I do carry a gun too, so let's not get that confused, because fire needs to be met with fire, right?
Sure.
But it comes down to a hand-to-hand thing. Like, how cool is it? Because you walk with a bit of confidence when you're in the military, right? You can just see it on the dudes, right? Even though our haircuts are ridiculous, like we're confident dudes, right? And it's the same with martial artists, MMA fighters, Muay Thai guys, jiu-jitsu practitioners, right? There's just this little bit of confidence about them because they do feel confident, because how cool is it that with a pretty high probability that you could defend yourself and who you're with.
Yeah.
Right. And probably not even take any damage.
It's also true that all it's talking about, Frank, all the things that you do, like insecurity is broken through the behaviors that you take, right, to progress through the belt system or to grow through your rank in the military. But somebody can't really bestow upon you the confidence or the talent or you know what I'm saying? Like, you're physically doing these things, so you show up differently, and then your nervous system changes, and you're less of a punk than you were before you did those things. I'm still a punk, I'm just less of a punk than I was before I, got my wings and did all the other stuff.
Sure. No, 100%. I'm glad you said nervous system, right? When you're when you exercise vigorously, right, there is a nervous system reset, right? And you outside, it's just like going for a run, right? Like, again, jiu-jitsu was so hard. You, at the end of 90 minutes, it should be hard to like sit up, right? If you gave it your all.
Yeah.
Once you do that, the rest is easy. Your nervous system is like completely diffused. It's really hard to get spun up on something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of dudes who were told that you are a trained killer, this is what you're going to do, right? And then they're not legally, they're not legal trained killers anymore, but they're still wired that way, right? It doesn't take much to spin up, right? But if you go to something like, I'm so glad you brought that, Josh, I didn't think about it. If you go to jiu-jitsu, you get that out of your system, and now you just calm demons, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Tim Kennedy, he said it pretty well. I know that he's in the news right now, but he did say something that's so compelling and true, right? The idea of being peaceful with being like useless, right? Someone says like, if someone's, I'm a peaceful, I don't believe in violence. You're like, no, you're not a peaceful man, you're useless, right? A peaceful man is a violent man who has that interior control.
Yes.
Right. That's like Josh in myself, right? To say that I could bring violence to the table if I need to. I could meet violence with violence. I could bring a superior amount of violence if I needed to, but I have that under complete volunteer control. Therefore, I am a peaceful man. I could actually bring a peace, right?
Yeah.
If shit's going down, I can help peace happen by kicking their asses, right? I need to step out of the peace for a little bit, smash some dudes to bring peace. If you no violence and you can't, and then true violence, right? Not bullying, not, the dude who has no skill whatsoever, but has influence and, will scream at his kids because he knows no other threat, those sort of things. That's not the violence that we're talking about. Like, you handle yourself and take a bad situation and diffuse it either with, physical violence or with your words. That is truly what a peaceful man is, right? So the cool thing about jiu-jitsu and the military, right? There it is. It's just one, it's the yin and yang of it, right? Like, we walk around knowing that we can handle ourselves. Therefore, we don't have to scream and road rage and those sort of things. Now, if you look at my Instagram, I have a little road rage issue because Oregon drivers are terrible.
I've seen them. Yeah, they're good.
I don't know. It can't just be me,
No,
right?
it's not.
That most Oregon drivers suck, and I just happen to have my phone out to record it. And
You have some Washington drivers on there too.
Yeah, man, that was wild, bro. That was wild.
It's Portland specifically, though.
And right, so
Yeah, Portland specifically, probably. I have a bunch to ask you. We covered a lot of ones. You just got to them, which I figured would happen. A lot of people don't know about the training screening process pipeline for PJs or CCTs. We all hear about the team guys and buds, and you hear about Robin Sage for special forces. Do you guys have a buds version for it? What is it? What do you guys call it?
completely different now than it was back in the day. I can say this because I have a dear friend, a guy that my first job in the military was B-52 weapon systems. Really, especially for an 18-year-old, that was fucking cool, right? And then I cross-trained out, right? So one of my guys that I worked on B-52s with, his son, so my friend Corey, his son wants to be an operator. And so he lives in Florida. So I'm just talking him through how to get ready for what the current model is. And what the current model is so much different than what it was before. There has been evolution since then, right? Is one better or worse? I don't know. I do know that the preparation is way better than it ever was before. There are government, military-sponsored government contract, that GS dudes who are, their job is to prepare candidates before they even go to boot camp.
Wow.
To go to what I think is called like selection now or something like that. I honestly don't know. But I guess there's boot camp, there's pre-selection, and then there's the pipeline. The pipeline has even changed, right? And it was in 2002, I think, and a long time ago, where they actually separated the combat controllers and the PJ pipeline, right? So the indoctrination course, which used to be a pararescue combat control indoctrination course, is now just a pararescue something course. I don't think they call it induct anymore. Matter, right? Why I say it doesn't matter is there is a standard still, and it's just how they get to that standard is a little different. There's rumblings now that the new selection process might actually take out the auto confidence portion, which would be just that's probably the worst side. That is some dot mil shit that I can't even wrap my hand.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah, for what you guys do. Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But from what it, in comparison, right? I love how everyone has done it differently. I like how Rangers did it. I like how the Marines still do it. I love how the Navy does it. I love how MARSOC does it. And I like how the Air Force does it. And they all do it a little differently, to where the Navy, right, they haven't changed that process from what I've been in a long time. They've obviously fine-tuned it quite a bit. But every dude goes to Coronado, right? And they report, and then you either pass buds or you don't, or you get recycled or whatever. And even when you pass buds, you don't become SEAL, right? You have to go to the team as a new guy. And you have to go through, there's an acronym, I'm sure, I don't know, I'll butcher it, right? But you're there for a while, going through your skills training, and suddenly everyone jumps into the water, and when they come out, they pin a trident on, which is pretty bad, right?
Yeah, it's like 2 years.
Takes a year, they say a year to 2 years, right? So the Air Force, and again, it's different between combat controllers, and now the whole special warfare, Air Force special warfare model, in its pararescue, combat control, special reconnaissance, which I think used to be combat weather, right? And then TACP, right? Tactical Air Control Party. The difference between combat controllers and tactical air control party is typically all combat controllers are special operations. Air control party, even though it's in the special warfare umbrella, you are the air control, you're the JTAC for conventional units throughout the rest of the DoD, right? Gotcha. So you are the person, so that skill that the combat controller has about calling in airstrikes, the TACP, that's their primary job, right? And they can do it for Army, they can do it for Marines, they can do it for Navy, with Dave Corps or whatever, right? So when you hear like, do they have a JTAC with them? Typically, it's an Air Force guy, either a controller or a TACP. Anyway, so for the force, so I think the way it happens now is that everyone reports to selection, and then somehow, some way, depending on how well you're doing or whatever, you get selected for one of those career fields. You can go in expecting to be a PJ or a combat controller or whatever. And if it works out that way, great. If it doesn't, they might, from what I understand, if you wanted to be a PJ, but you didn't cut it because of this one requirement, but that requirement doesn't belong to TACP, they ask him, hey, do you want to go to TACP? Right?
That's cool.
So that's how they do it now, which is really, really cool. Because you probably take a lot of studs who just can't do that one thing and figure out they can do, right? So
like the medical part, maybe.
It could be, right? But you don't learn the medical. Well, I guess you would learn medical aptitude early, right? Like if you clearly don't have it, then they're like, hey, maybe do something else, right? That's I guess. But the way it used to be was that the PJs and combat controllers went to indocs, right? You knew you were going to be a PJ combat controller. It's the exact same indoc, and once you graduate, you go to a pipeline. The pipeline is Army Airborne School, military free fall school, senior. For PJs, you go to medical training, and then for the combat controllers, you go to blood tap control. You become a base on flight tap controller. The kids used to go to the 18 Delta School, who did the first year of 2 years. Now there's a master. Now they go to a medical study, civilian paramedics, again by the university, and you come out as a registered EMT, paramedic. And then you go to your finishing school, so you get awarded, you now a career to do, and then you go to an advanced AST, advanced skills training, and once you graduate AST, you can deploy, right? And that's how it used to be. The problem is the attrition rate, right? It takes many dudes, and as the days go by, it became so few. At the end of 2 years, you might have 5 guys.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
If you only have 5 guys a quarter, that's 20 guys a year. That's not enough, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, we need to find a way to prepare. We're not changing the standard as far as elimination, but preparation, we can do a lot that are dropping preparation. So now there's cut the courses and all those sort of things, which I think is great, right? But it sounds like they might be long. That's shitty.
That's the way they do it in the Army is when they need more people through the 18 series, they open up what they call the Stop C program. I'm sure they changed the acronym, but they gave you like a 6-month preparatory period so that you could pass the physical skills more easily and some of the tactical skills more easily. And what that would do is that would mean that a larger pool of applicants gets to the actual skill training. And then you've seen it before, you have more time. And so lo and behold, you give people extra 6 months, you have a lot more, the higher success rate. Standards stay the same, but you just took more time. It was more expensive to get them through there, but you end up with a larger pool of professionals.
There you go. Yeah, I do have a buddy through Jiu-Jitsu who went through the 18X program and is a Green Beret now. And he said that now that he's a Green Beret, it's better. But when it was almost like it was a bad label to have that you were going through the 18X program because it was different than the current Green Berets, different than how, right? Like you should just be able to graduate high school, sign up and pass. And if not, then you're weak and you shouldn't be here, right? So, which I don't agree with, but who am I? No one cares.
Oh, they needed it back then. They had to get soldiers in the field, so made sense.
My time in the Air Force was I enlisted in 95. I went to tech school to be a B-52 weapons guy. I did that for a little bit. I really liked it. I actually just got bored of it. Right. So I wanted to be a PJ. I got hurt during that preparation. I became a combat search and rescue helicopter aircrew member, a gunner. That's why I love Black Hawk so much. Right. I did that for a while. Did that actually for my first couple deployments, and then I cross trained and I came to Portland. And then my body was beaten up at that point to where operating this was like, and my new marriage at the time, she was like, hey, if we're going to have children, like you can't keep this up, right? The operational tempo, the deployment, the constant, it's almost the professional athlete sort of thing to where you would rehab and now you're healthy, then you would operate and then you would get hurt and then you would convalesce and then you would rehab and get healthy and then hurt and repeat. Guys are still doing that and they're pretty up, right? So advantage of an opportunity. The commander at the time, combat rescue officers were brand new to around this time. Now they're colonels and stuff, right? That's pretty cool. That's how long it's been. My combat rescue officer commander was a butter bar lieutenant.
Really?
That's new combat rescue officers work, right? They took the PJs at that unit and they're like, who has a degree? 4 of them go to OTS. Okay. Right. So now they're officers and now they're like commanders and shit. Right. So, but they were also our bros. Right. And they were like, hey man, like, do you want to do this? Do you want to keep doing this? Like, because we're all doing it. Right. Hurt, rehab, hurt, rehab, right. That sort of thing. I'm like, not really. They were like, well, I mean, while this is still legal, you could medical out right now. I had enough justification from a really bad injury to my neck where I can out. So I did, right? So I don't claim like, hey, I was this kick-ass operator. Again, I love being a student, right? A lot of experience, went to a lot of schools, did a lot of cool shit. met the greatest people, did a lot of cool missions, was in the sandbox, did thing. There are dudes out there that wore the same uniform. I wore the same uniform as them, same qualifications ever, that did 50 times what I ever thought I can do, right? And I'm just blessed to know them and support them. My niche of the thing that I brought is, like, I love getting dudes together and just making sure that their minds are good. Like, right? Like,
Love it. Mhm.
are you like?
Mhm.
They've done that for me, right? I had great mentors, and introducing them. Yeah, totally, man. Right? Like introducing them to jiu-jitsu, the gunfighting thing, like the tactical training thing it was a pillar for me for a long time. Right? It
Mhm.
was one of my core competencies that I would say of my pillars. That was one of them, and I didn't want to lose it. Right. So that's why I kept doing it. And that's why I continue to do it. Right. I do less of that now and more grappling in jiu-jitsu, but that's still one of the things that keep me going. And really what I want to do is just make sure that everyone is okay. And so, and my family say that's the thing about Frank is, instead of checking in on people, that's why checking on Miles all the time, right? Like, you check in on your brother. I don't know where he is and what he's doing, right? But I think he's doing fish shit. So I'm glad that social media exists. I'm glad that platforms like this exist, so we can say, whoever listens to the thing, right? If any of this resonates with you, like, put my email address in there or find me on Instagram, and I'll chat with you. No big deal, right? And I'm not an expert, right? I would call Miles an expert in this, but one thing I can do is connect people with people like Miles and Travis and the like, right? Those are the things that's my current mission, right? The word mission gets used a lot. That's my current mission is to be able to do just that.
Yeah, and you're well connected too, so that helps. You get a lot of people that you can send to other people to talk. Yeah, you're sort of a slam dunk for this podcast too, because we talk about this a lot. What I know we're probably running long on time, but if we have a closing thought, what's your advice to maybe even men in general, but veterans in general who are still struggling? I mean, we'll put your links in the show notes, but what should they do if they don't know where to start? What do they do?
This, right?
This.
Like, there is someone out there that your story will relate to and resonate with. And I don't care who you are, your story is going to help someone else.
Good.
So if you're struggling, the best thing to do for someone who's struggling is to feel worth, right? To feel worthy, right? The worst thing is to feel worthless, right? Like, I've been in those dark places to say, like when I saw the disaster that was the pullout of Afghanistan, right?
God, yeah.
Sat with it and saying, like, was all that a waste?
Yeah.
Was it worth it? Right. And I still wrestle with it in my brain.
I bet.
But then when I say, we couldn't do nothing after 9/11 happened, we did something. And in that something, great things happened. A lot of bad things happened. Right. Obviously, we couldn't do it forever. So let's pick up the pieces. And a lot of those pieces that are picked up is what someone like Josh would say, or myself to say, was my time, was it worth it? Right. And then what I would say to them is just like, dude, your time, right? Person X called Mike, like, Mike, your time was so worth it because I want to hear your story. I want to hear it and I want to feel it. And just trust me, because I've been doing this long enough. Again, my buddy Keith died in, I believe, 2012. 13 years of doing this and talking to people, right? Every story that I hear will help someone, right?
Yeah.
I don't care if you were 18 years old, like we'll use the 18-year-old infantryman, right? The 18-year-old infantryman that got discharged after 2 years because an IED went up and he's got terrible tinnitus and he got discharged, right? He'll tell me a story. He may only have one. It may have been his very first patrol when he was 18, right? He's going to tell me that story. He's living now. Dude, that's a fucking story, right?
Yeah.
Someone's going to hear that story and be like, he did it maybe I can do it. And if we can connect those guys, right? It's like the friend for life sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Those sort of things. So my recommendation for anyone, because bro, I've been there, man. Like I have been there to the point where I've been at funerals and being like,
Wow.
is my funeral the next one?
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And not because I'm unhealthy, because I'm a very healthy dude, right? But my funeral could be the next one because there's a lot of dark stuff going in my brain right now. And it's only when I go to it's oddly enough, I go to those funerals and all the people are there that want to hear me and want to listen. And I want to listen to them, right? So if you have the opportunity, right, find the opportunity. Social media, it helps, right? It's also, I mean, some people say it could be a bad thing, but it also can connect you. It can connect you. You can listen to something like this. You can listen to the Vet Speak podcast. You can listen to Sean Ryan and those stories, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Someone there has something that you can relate to. So if you're feeling worthless, tell your story to me and I will tell you how worthy you are, right?
Brilliant.
I mean, how badass is it that someone is 16 or 17 years old and saying, yeah, put a gun in my hand. I will go fight for my country. I don't care if I die.
Yeah. Where do you find that?
Pretty gangster, right?
Yeah.
So at one time you were a gangster. I'm not saying you have to be a gangster anymore, right? But someone values that mentality. Guys like on this panel will value it. I know my kids value that sort of thing when they talk to about it. My dad was a Vietnam vet. Like I'm sure I would listen to him, the same fucking stories over and over again for decades because, right? Why not? Because I thought he was my hero and those sort of things, even though I got bored of the stories. But then I would meet a friend of his, right? And then he'd have a spin to the story. Well, he had an extra detail to the story, right? Mm-hmm. And it was live again. And just to look on those guys' faces, right? To say, hey, here's this kid, me when I was still a kid, right? Who wants to know these sort of things. Start telling your story. The more you tell your story, the more you're going to relate to people, because right now you feel like you're not relating to anyone, right? Let people remind you how cool the things, even if you fucked up, maybe even you were a total fuck up, right? You were still a gangster at one time, right? That's pretty cool, right? And don't ever forget it, right? Now, on the flip side of that, then you could edit this part out, right? Like if you were a dirtbag and you deserve a dirtbag life, fine, that's what you got, right? But that's not the case for most people. Most people just don't know, right? Especially if they were pulled onto the side.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
Frank, I feel like, anybody who talks to you or listens to you talk for 5 minutes, they're going to be cured of whatever ails them, whether they were sad, whether they were bipolar, whether they were schizophrenic, they're going to get sorted out, man. You're going to have it going. That's it.
Thanks. Yeah, no, this is fun, man. And I will tell you, and this is why I can say this, guys, like right now, even me, like I feel so much better now than I did 2 hours ago. Right?
Love it. Love it.
Dude,
that's the medicine.
Right? Just talked about it. That's right. Allows for someone just to talk. I'm not going to judge. Right? Again, I'll go back. Like I wish I screenshotted it. I will. I'm gonna go back and I watch it. How much we were crying when you was like only women and children, right? Dude, give someone a pill where they can feel that laughter once a day, and there would be no sleep, right?
Totally.
Dudes that can relate. We can do dark humor if needed or whatever, like sarcasm, right? Like my wife will never get it, right? Like how men, especially veterans, right? We will so much shit to each other in front of our faces, right? Yeah. We will take all your little failures and exploit the hell out of it. Right?
Bust and balls. Yeah.
Lie in front of a train for you at the same time.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and it's unfortunate, right? This is another topic, but like women will say, oh, you're beautiful, you're great, you're awesome. As soon as they turn their back, they're talking shit about other women. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Like the military dude, that's the opposite.
Yeah.
But we will say all the shit. I'm trying to hurt your feelings.
That just means we like you.
That's only, I would not put that energy into it if I didn't like you.
Correct. Yeah, you just ignore him.
Yeah, totally.
I think I heard Jocko say in the SEALs, if someone's, I don't know what the word is, that not a good guy, they'll say, oh, how's so and so, and he'll say, oh, he's a good neighbor. Yeah, that's it. And then no further conversation.
Yeah. My dad's from Texas. He passed away, but he's Texan. And so his thing, and he would tell me this, he was like, if you heard someone say, well, bless their heart, they're actually talking shit about you.
Yeah, that's a Texan thing. Yeah.
And so I think about that too. I heard that a couple times in the military. It was like, yeah, like good neighbor, like, yeah, it's good dude. Like if they're not like overtly standing there and like praising you or openly talking shit about you, then they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that motherfucker? Yeah. Obviously, start talking about they love him. Right?
Yeah.
We'll get around to why we love you, but I'm going to call him a motherfucker first.
Yeah. That's the gallows humor.
Medicine.
Yeah, I think that's what's largely men are missing in the civilian world too, is they don't have this. You know, we're missing this.
Yeah.
There's a male loneliness epidemic in the world, and male suicides are going up. We're told we're toxic. We're told we're bad. We don't have a squad. We don't have community. We can't talk like this, and that's, you know, going into the military, it solves that problem. But if you don't go into the military, where do you find that? You know, and that's what this podcast is kind of about. Connor Beaton and Trevor Boehm, their podcasts, that's what it's about, like men's work and things like that. So we do need to fix that.
Along those lines, this might be our fifth last thing. I remember when I first got into corporate America, like truly not bartending, like an office job, right? When I first got into sales, calling, prospective clients, trying to sell them IT technology, right? That job itself was cool, right? I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed actually calling people randomly and having conversations. And if the dude was a veteran, fuck, hook, man, I got you. Like, I'm telling you, sit it. No, I am. But I remember when I started, I was a 13th person in a 12-person class, right? Means someone vouched for me to get me into this training class to become a technology sales guy, which first of all, I have no sales experience. I have no technology experience, right? Someone vouched for me to do so. Ended up being best man at my wedding. So with that, like, someone took a risk on me and I didn't want to let them down. Once we got onto the sales floor after a month of training, I learned like how the rest of society works. And I really hated it. Like dudes, grown men in their 30s with children, with tuition, rolling their eyes at their manager like, fine, and just walk away and stomp off. I'm like, the fuck? Gosh, imagine that.
I can imagine a fisticuffs busting out because of something like that.
Yeah, right. Let's just change that narrative a little bit. We're in uniform. It's kind of a relaxed day. We're in the office. We're not even in the field or at the range or anything. We're chilling, right? And then Master Sergeant says to Sergeant, hey, before we go, let's make sure the trash is taken out. Looks around, even though he's a sergeant, he might be the lowest ranking dude there, is like squared away, right? Said sergeant, who's used to delegating that to lower enlisted, throws a fit. I'm making this up because it'll never happen.
Never
or if it did, video it and put it on YouTube. Imagine if said sergeant, the younger guy, stands up, rolls his eyes like, whatever, and walks away. I have a gazillion stories like that, right? Where I'm like, I don't belong here, man.
Yeah.
The guy might not be a good manager. He may not be a good leader, but he's who's there, right? And I'm sort of reporting to him. He has my respect. I will treat him with respect.
Mm-hmm. Probably go better for you.
Man, I miss it. I miss it.
I bet you do.
Well, Frank, me and you got to have beers sometime. That's a fact. We got to figure that out. I know we got to wrap it up here, Miles, but we'll exchange info after this.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you guys absolutely should. And I'll YouTube that one because that'll probably be a cool conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man. We'll link everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's exactly. I forgot we got the Hawaii connection too.
Surf's up.
So I'm gonna push stop, but stay online because I'll make sure it uploads.